Hey, my name's David.
My name's Kaiya, and we're the creators of You Are Art, where we demystify the life of an artist through real and honest conversations between creatives.
We hope to explore and inspire a more authentic definition of art while learning from each other along the way.
Let's jump right in. So we thought we'd start the first episode by introducing ourselves and what this podcast is about. The premise of our podcast is to have honest conversations between creatives. So we are two creatives that created this podcast.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Thank you. So what better way to kick this off than getting to know us, right?
Yeah. Do you want to kick it off? Who are you?
Who am I?
Who are you? Tell me who you are.
That's a great question. I ask myself that every day. Well, my presence on here is Kaiya. I'm going to be present with you guys as Kaiya, which is my artist name, my stage name, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
My given name is Delara, but I think Kaiya really embodies that creative soul of me.
Yeah.
So my name's Kaiya, and I'm a alternative R&B, neo soul songwriter, singer, dabble in producing. And I'm a dancer.
That's awesome.
So is that a good enough summary?
I think so. Well, I mean, like, since we're on this topic as well, like, where did the name Kaiya come from?
The name Kaiya came from a show called Dragon Ball Z.
Hell yeah.
I think you know that.
Hell yeah.
There's a character called the Supreme Kai, and not a lot of people, there's a lot of the Supreme Kai haters because he's like weak considering he's the protector of all the universes or something.
Like, everyone's always drawn to, like, who's the strongest?
Yeah,
or who's the most
yeah,
badass?
yeah.
And the Kai's don't.
He's like that short.
Yeah, they're like all purple dudes, and like one's like kind of chubby, the other guy's like kind of skinny, one
Yeah.
looks like a kid, the other
Yeah.
guy's really old.
Yep.
It's like not enough respect.
So that's me. I just really like the name Kai, and then just the whole concept of being the protector of the universe. He's just so loving and powerful. And so I just ran with that. Kai became Kaiya.
Yeah.
I looked up the meaning of that, and it was forgiveness.
That's cool.
So that's just like a grounding point for me as an artist, no matter how far or deep I go into the industry. I just want to remember my values, and forgiveness and compassion is massive for me. So
I think that's sick.
thank you.
Yeah.
Every time someone says my name, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of your ego.
It's just like every time someone says your name, you just feel humbled.
Yeah, seriously, that happens.
Like, woo, Kaiya.
Yeah.
It's all
That's
zen
me.
now. It's all good.
So that's where my name came from. Where did your name come from, David?
Yeah, so my name's David. My mother gave me this. So like,
It all started.
it all started in 1991. Yeah, so my name is David. Last name is Shin. But this is mainly my Instagram name. I've had many other monikers in the past, mainly based off my last name, like things like, it all came from like Shin. So things would be like Shinny.
Yeah.
And then Shin plus anything like shin pads. Shin
Oh,
dog,
I've never seen
shin
that.
dig.
Side
Back
tube.
in high school. So that was really fun. And then, yeah, like for a while, I kind of just kept going with that Shinny kind of nickname and adding numbers at the end and stuff.
Yeah.
But then when it changed into Dimenshin, which is spelled like Dimension, except the S-I-O-N is spelled S-H-I-N, like my last name.
So cool.
The reason why I did that initially was actually, now that I think about it, originally I didn't want to call myself Dimension because there's a big film distribution company called Dimenshin Films. Like they're spelled Dimension, like normally. And then I didn't want to like be like, oh, I'm doing films. I don't want to sound too similar to them. And so I kind of didn't want to go down that route. But then as time went on and, you know, as you mature, live life, have more experiences, get a bigger perspective and get humbled, the word dimension kept popping up in my head. And so I decided like, hey, you know what? Actually, I think I will pick that name up.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then sort of call myself that because there's so many facets to everything, life, creativity, expression, whatever it is. And that's why I chose that name.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
So many
'cause-
dimensions to and your art.
Oh, thank you. Well, dimensions to everyone in general.
Yeah.
And I think when I let myself take that in, it just really opened my mind up more to being able to do more of what I want to do rather than just being one thing. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Because like, when you give yourself a name, it's like, that's me now. That's all I do.
Yeah.
This name for me feels like you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
It's a permission to give myself, it's to give myself permission to do whatever I want.
Totally.
Even though I tend to stop myself.
That's amazing. I feel the same. I feel like the reason that I have a stage name is because Delara, I've already got so many ideas attached to that identity. Whereas I don't know who Kaiya is yet. You know, she's growing into this art form.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much how my name came about. And also what I do is filming. So I created a film company called Monetizing Studios with Kurt. Woo, self shout out. And yeah, I've been doing filming for pretty much almost a decade. Started off being more of a hobby. I've always loved watching movies and shows and all that stuff, watching cartoons as well, anime, Dragon Ball Z.
Did you watch Naruto?
Oh, hell yeah.
Have you watched Boruto?
So I haven't, I stopped. Not to get into like a full like debate or discussion, but like, yeah.
We'll do that off camera.
We'll fight off camera. It's okay. But yeah, just like growing up with all that stuff, watching media, etc., etc. And then once I kind of left high school, it just kind of clicked. I was like, actually, this is what I want to sort of pursue more of. And then, you know, studied a bit more, went out and shot things with friends, had some fun. And then in the last 5-6 years is when I really put my foot down and said, okay, let's actually go head first into this industry and make this a career. And that's when Mind Society started as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. I really admire that about you, how you've really made it your whole career, because music is my career at the moment, but one thing that I'm still learning to do properly is monetizing my art.
It's hard. It's hard. So that's a really interesting point. And like, I think before we even get to that, let's quickly go over what this show is again.
Great idea.
So the reason why this podcast is called You Are Art is because what we as humans embody is art and self-expression. And yeah, the idea of like that whole phrase, you are art, is like this cycle. It's like you exist because of art and art exists because of you. And we're all, no matter who it is, we're all vessels in self-expression and creating something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, David.
Oh, thank you.
He's
poetry.
Also a poet. Yeah.
I did actually like want to write poetry at one point.
Yeah. And what stopped you? I'm a videographer.
To be honest, kind of, yeah. Like,
I have
it's like, don't do too much, like focus. And it's like, no, actually, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Hell yeah, you can.
Yeah. Sorry, I just completely forgot like, what we're talking about again. What did you ask? It was oh, sorry, I completely derailed that.
No, that was perfect. I think that to talk about what the podcast is about is really important.
Yeah.
For the first episode, especially. And kind of what we hope to do with this is bring various artists on of different mediums, right? So
yeah, for sure, and get
singers,
their perspectives.
Yeah, directors, tattoo artists, and really gain perspective and uncover the truth of being an artist. Because it's very glamorous on Instagram and Facebook, right? And it's the life of an artist is a lot. And I went to I'm going to say it the layman's way, Van Gogh. I know that's not how you actually say it.
Yeah.
Exhibition recently, and I was reading about how he cut off his ear and did all this crazy stuff, right? Yeah. That doesn't seem that wild to me, like as an artist.
So actually, that's really good that you brought that up as well, because that's the other side to all of this, which is like, this is a open, safe environment to just talk about anything that's art. And I think like what's really cool about that is like, you can essentially do whatever the fuck you want. And whether people like it or not, that's not really the actual point. It's about just talking about it and trying to understand and express to each other. Like, what is it that we can tell each other and show about each other through what we do without judgment. And that's to say, like, if it's not your taste, it's not your taste. That's fine. You don't have to like everything. But again, this is just that open forum for people to just like talk about who they are, what they do. And so I love that. It's like, it might not be your thing, but it's like, that was something. Yeah. And it's something that you can learn from too.
Totally. Yeah. And it's a lot less about, listen to my new single, or this is my new film. And it's more about, how did you make that single? What did you go through to make that? What did you feel like? We want to kind of get to the nitty gritty of it. For me personally, in the way this podcast came about, we just had really similar intentions and similar ideas.
It actually is pretty funny how that came about.
We'll go into that. We'll go into that in a second. But for me, I didn't know that I wasn't alone in the turmoils of an artist until I spoke to more creatives. And it's like, oh yeah, that's normal. Oh, you didn't write a song for 2 months? That's normal.
It's like, oh dude, tell me about
So one of my biggest intentions with this, and you already know, was to create that voice for creatives to be like, I'm normal. This is okay. How do I get through it? And share how we've gotten through it so that we can help each other and make the creative space a more safe and nurturing one for mental health as well.
I think that's so freaking important. Because like exactly what you said, just talking to more and more creatives and people out there, it's like sometimes they just need a space to like talk about like what they've gone through, and like being able to share similar and different experiences is like, it helps to shape the way that you want to approach what you do as well. And I also remembered what you asked.
What did I ask?
You asked me about monetary, like
monetizing.
Yeah. So going back to that, it's a tough one, because even to this day, honestly speaking, like I can't say, and this is my own personal perspective on it, but I still don't feel like I'm making money off of my art. Because what's sort of happened, and this is not to say it's a bad thing, but what's happened is like my skills and my craft has become a commodity, and that commodity is a way of giving me income and money. So, I'm providing a service for other people. I talk to them, we collaborate, have an idea, and then we create something, and we create this product, and then that gets sold, and then, I get money from that transaction. But the part where the art comes in that doesn't get money is like when I do a piece that is purely because I want to make it. Transactionally, I don't really know if it's tangible. Like I can't put a solid figure on it.
I'm so similar.
You like, for sure you can say like it influences how you can get money, because say you put out a piece and it gets a lot of attraction or a lot of exposure, as they say. Pay me an exposure. Something gets a lot of eyes, and then like through that, you might get more clients or whatever, or you might get some more paid gigs. But again, that's not to say that piece is like a money generator or like has been sold for like a specific amount. So that's what I mean by like, I can't quite say that my art has given me money yet. Because like, I guess like the most easiest way to like see that is if I sold a piece, Totally. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
That's so it's more like your services.
My services. Like, I guess like the best way I can think of putting it is that I've gotten much better at drawing the line between what is my art and what is my service. Yeah.
That's a great point, because I feel like that's what I need to draw the line at. Because my art is so enmeshed with everything. It can be so hard to be like, how can I actually make this my job?
It's hard.
Will it kill my art? Will it kill my art? I don't know.
I mean, like speaking from experience, when I did burn out really hard, and I think I've spoken about this probably a ton of times on to other friends and other places, but when I burnt out really hard at the end of 2019 and pretty much throughout 2020, like COVID pandemic aside, I was at this point where I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
And what is and isn't me? So when I was doing a lot of client work during 2019, which wasn't bad, it was great. Income was great. I just hit this point where I was like, I'm putting a lot of myself into the work. And then what the result would be is this work isn't a reflection of who I am. But because I put this attachment on the work,
Yep.
it kind of backfired.
Yeah.
And that's what caused the burnout and like caused that whole emotional turmoil and all that stuff. So then what ended up happening in 2020 and 2021 was I got much better at sort of drawing that line and going like, okay, this I know is going to be more transactionally based. So there's a bit more of a detachment to it. Like I'm still attached in terms of like a professional, but in terms of like using this piece to like express myself and tell something that's dear to me or like personal to me, I'll draw that line and be like, okay, I'm going to reserve that for something else, if that makes sense.
Great. Yeah. No, very well put. Very well put.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably some more complexities to it, but that's the simplest way that my brain sort of like, structured it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's still, there's still times where I kind of like struggle with that here and there. Cause I'm like, a client might bring a project to me where I'm like, this is fucking sick.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, all these ideas and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, we want this. And you're like, but this is cool.
Yeah.
And I have all these like feelings towards it.
Yeah.
In those cases, it's really, I know this is getting slightly businessy, but like, yeah, again, it's just like communicating with the client, seeing where the pieces fit, and then going with the best solution out of that. Yeah. So if they're happy to collaborate and give you that creative freedom, then sweet. If not, then it's like, okay, like then I need to draw that line.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think like even you saying it's getting businessy, the creative world has become a thriving business, and us creatives have become just like these tiny cogs that don't ever get serviced. And we need to look after ourselves because it's a machine. It's a big business machine. And I was talking to a friend today about how when money comes into the picture, it can be so tragic for creative relationships, creative projects. Because as you just said, right, if you're getting paid for a project, it's almost difficult / taboo to actually put your own input in, because it's like they're paying you and that's your job. So how much of my actual creative integrity is allowed in this project? I don't know. I don't want to overstep my line as someone who's hired. Because like if you hire a builder to build your house, you give them the plans. Then I'm like, you know what? I might make this an archway. I know you said you wanted it to be rectangle, but
it's like, I want this to be made out of like old wood and stuff. It's like, how about I use brick? It's like, bro.
I just think it'll look better. Yeah, it's a funny one. And sadly, the reason I was talking about this with my friend is because there are people in the creative industry who use money, one, as their driving force and why they're doing what they're doing, which is alien to me. And
I feel you on that one.
Second, there are people in there who use, and my friend brought this up actually, they use the awkwardness of money to manipulate the vulnerability of artists.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that just doesn't really get like, you don't really get taught this, to be honest. Even when I was like doing some courses in uni and stuff, they never talk about like money. Like they talk about networking, connections and all that kind of stuff. Like, you got to build up your portfolio and like you're going to find these right people and blah, blah, blah. But they never talk about like, all right, let's talk about budget.
Yeah.
And it is such an awkward topic because like you said, people can take advantage, manipulate, ruins relationships, etc., etc. And like, I can tell you from experience, like a lot of that stuff, well, not a lot, sorry. I've been through a combination and a mixture of all those different things. The way I like to think about it is when someone approaches me, I'll say this first, and I've said this to you a bunch of times, like when it comes to money, if money wasn't a thing, I would not give a fuck.
Same.
I would just make stuff because that's just me. That's what I do. That's what we do. We just want to make things and we want to express ourselves. So if money was out of the equation, like that's what we do. But because money is in the equation, the way I like to tend to think about it is, even if a client is approaching me with money, they're approaching me because they see something that I can give them back in return. They're coming to me for my expertise as well. So I try to, like, well, I don't even try to convince myself. Like I think I know that when they do approach us, we have the right to say, like, this is what I think is correct. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor. Like, you don't go to the doctor to then tell them, like, hey, I've got this, so give me this drug. You know?
Yeah.
You go to the doctor and be like, hey, I want this to be better. What do I do? So when a client comes to, you know, us to ask about videos and stuff, it's like, we'll sit down, we'll talk to them and be like, that's great. What do you think about these ideas? And then through that, it almost becomes a bit more collaborative.
Yeah.
There are some clients who obviously want to, you know, keep their foot down and be like, no, we want this. In those cases, if the project, it's awesome, like, we're fine with that. But if it's very much against, or not even against, but just not our vibe, we'll just straight up be like, yeah, you know, sorry, not interested.
Yeah.
But if you need any suggestions for any other people you want to work with, like, let us know.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Good luck and have fun.
See, that just shows that your intentions of being in the industry. Because I've worked with some people who take on jobs that they're not qualified for, but they want to be paid for. And it's not that you're not even qualified. It's just that you don't align with that project. And I think that's such an important thing in the creative world. Like, if you can't do the job, if you're not aligned with the job, if your heart isn't in it, don't take it.
Yeah, because I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
And the result is, like, it just doesn't end up being good all the time. So, you know, you learn from that.
Yeah, and it's respecting each other in the industry too, because, like, as you said, it's like, I will recommend you on to someone else who's better for you, who's better for this job.
100%.
So you're not only supporting yourself in remaining on good terms with that client, but you're also helping that other creative to get a job, and you're helping the client. And I really respect that. I think that needs to be a more prominent thing in the music industry anyway. That's all I can really speak on. Yeah,
I mean, like, well, how does that kind of work in the music industry then? Like, in terms of, like, working with clients and the money side of things? Because for video, like, it's very much commoditized. Like, it's a product that you can sell nowadays. Whereas music, like, besides making jingles and things like that, like, it's a bit more, not abstract, but a bit more different.
It is.
The landscape,
It is. I mean, I'm fairly new to the industry. I've only been in there for like 3 years now, properly as a solo artist. But it's hard because, like, you can sell your lyrics, you can sell melodies, you can sell beats.
Right, yeah.
And I've been learning a lot about producer prices and how much they fluctuate.
Right.
So one producer can, you know, produce a beat for you and just say 300 and it's yours. Then you have another producer who's like 1,500, it's yours, and I want 50%. And it's so difficult to navigate what you think is worth that amount of money, because it's so... One thing I realized about the music industry so far, and I could be wrong, I know that I'm new, please don't come for me. I feel like everyone's just throwing prices out of thin air. And let's see if we can get away with it. It's all about negotiation. And that is just such a foreign world for me.
I think that's something that's kind of similar to the world of film and videography mainly.
Yeah.
Because when people ask me, like, how do you come up with your rates and, like, your prices and stuff, like, it starts off kind of logical. Like, you compare yourself, you see what the market's kind of like, you compare yourself to creators who are similar to you in terms of level, style, all that type of stuff. And then there's the abstract one where it's like, what is my own self-worth to me?
Yeah.
Like, what do I think I'm worth?
Yeah.
That's the part I can't quite explain.
Yeah.
I can't explain that part adequately yet.
Neither can I.
Yeah.
Neither can I. And even when I'm paying for a beat, I also need to ask myself, how much do I think? So when I'm writing the top line, the melody, how much do I think that's worth? Because if I'm going to give 50% of the overall income of this track to that producer and pay them on top of that do I think that I can get a better beat produced for that top line?
Right. Okay.
It's such a, you know, again, if money wasn't in it, I'd be like, yeah, let's do anything. But it's like, when you're asking me for $2,000, do I think that my lyrics are supported enough, my melody is supported enough by this beat to give you that much?
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah.
I guess another way I try to think about it is like, it's almost like what is going to help support me, and trying to break it down that way, because then at least that's something tangible.
Totally.
It's like, how long is this going to take? I guess, yeah, that's the other side of things. It's like, how long is this going to take? What's required to make this happen? And then that helps me sort of formulate like, okay, I need this amount of money so that I can get this stuff done and also have these things available. And then during this time, I'll have this amount of income, which will support me to live.
Yes.
And then future-proofing myself in terms of gear and all that other stuff. Like I think there is a way to break it down. And I have tried to go down that route. But yeah, sometimes it just reverts back and I'm just like, what is this random number I'm throwing out there? It's like a client asked me, I'm like, yeah, that's like blah, blah, blah grand. And they're like, can you break that down for me? I'm like, give me a day.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Yeah. I think the breakdown's so important too,
It's
especially
so important.
when it's that much money.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so important to tell people what they're paying for.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like a gut feeling. I'm like, I know this project is worth this much.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, sorry, I have to break it down. Give me a second.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's hard too when there's been times I've felt that the price is out of thin air. Where it's like, oh, so how much is that? Was it for that session? Like, oh, $1,000. And it's like, $1,000? Where did that come from? What am I paying for?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a bit of a side tangent, but this is the things that we want to explore on here because, again, this is an aspect of being a creative that not a lot of people know that we overthink about.
Yeah, or they're afraid to talk about as well. Real quickly, I'm going to just shout out to my business partner, Kirk, because he does help a lot with like the business end.
Yeah.
He does help a lot with like, the rates and the financing and stuff. So without him, like, you know, I'd definitely be a bit lost.
I'm still waiting for my Kurt. So if you're out there,
just hit us up. But like, also speaking about Kurt and like, I say he's like my business partner and stuff. He's one of those people that also fell under that guise of like, you know, that label of being creative. It gets thrown around so much to the point where it's like, for me, it almost loses its meaning. Because when I think of labels tend to categorize us instantly.
yeah,
But the thing is, going back to Dimenshin, we're more than just one label. And so when people get called a creative, it's like, it gives a good general idea. It's like, oh, this person like does something in the arts or something. But the way I like to think about it is like, everyone has their own way of accessing creativity. So with Kurt, like, he may not be creative like us in the way that we're creative, but he's incredibly creative in other areas. His problem solving skills, the way that he approaches certain situations and finds solutions, like mad creative. Like I'd stand there and be like, wow, okay, I did not fucking think of that, you know?
totally.
And so that's why I think like when it comes to this whole your art thing, it's also exploring people who don't think that an artist or creative, but everyone has something in them that they can share with all of us.
Totally. We're always creating.
Yeah,
We're always
everyone's creating. Yeah.
Yeah. My mum, you already know, is a chef.
Yeah.
And the things she creates blows my mind. And I'm always like, see, Ma, you're a creative. You're so artistic. You're such a creative. And it's always like, no. I'm just a cook. And yeah, I think on the podcast, we hope to inspire people to realize their creativity in them.
Yeah.
Because that segregation between creatives and everyone else is so silly. Because as you said, we're all creatives. We are art.
Yeah.
You are art.
Everyone listening and watching, your art.
So I want to go into how the podcast came about.
Oh, yeah.
So I had this idea to interview artists and be really real, get to the nitty gritty. And David was one of the first people that came to mind to collaborate with, because we did my first music video
Which
together.
is how we met.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Serendipitous.
So the way we met was, this was near the end of 2020.
Yes.
I was pretty much at this point where I was just like, again, severely burnt out from like 2019, early 2020, wanting to take a step back and just like figure out like where I want to go again. And what I wanted to do more of was music videos and just reaching out to more local artists. And just by pure chance on YouTube, Kai's song Introspect was recommended. Thank you, algorithm.
Yes, thank
Shout
you.
out to the
Finally,
YouTube algorithm.
finally it worked.
And it just popped up, and I saw that it was like, Melbourne based, and I was like, oh shit, that's fucking random. Let's hear the track. And I was like, instantly, I was like, this is fucking dope. And it was the perfect track, because this was like peak stage 4 lockdown.
Yeah.
And I remember that week vividly, because at the same time, everyone was like posting on this story, like going like, I'm fucking depressed.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking sad. I'm like anxious. Everyone's going through some tough shit. And then when that song popped up, I was like, this track is dope.
That makes me so, every time like that just makes me so happy.
Yeah, and like,
thank you.
And the thing is like, the ideas for the visuals just popped into my head instantly. I was like, I could see it straight away.
Yeah.
I was like, sunny, bright, like out in the field floating. I was like, I'm feeling it. And then, I just messaged her on Instagram, like right after I heard the track. And then I was like, she replies, cool. If not, then, hey, it is what it is. And then she replied.
Oh yeah, I replied. Are you kidding? I was driving. I remember it vividly. And it was that day or the day before, I can't remember, where I was literally just putting the intention out there. I was like, please help me to make a music video for this track. So that was my very first track. I really struggled with imposter syndrome. So
for a first track, it's fucking incredible.
Thank you so much.
The production was so good.
Really?
Yeah,
this is just a YouTube beat.
I know, but like everything meshed so well. The vocals with the track and everything was just like,
oh my God, that means so much to me, because I was transitioning out of a dancer. Again, Delara was a dancer. She was a trained dancer.
Yeah.
But me as a singer, since I was a kid, has always been, I just love it. It wasn't something I was groomed to be. Yep. So releasing that track, and it gained a little bit of traction, like more than I would have expected as a first release.
And like, I'm not trying to like, be like, oh my God, you're so great. But like, honestly speaking, like when I heard the track, like it sounded like you were very established. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is sick.
That means so much.
Like it didn't
to me.
feel like a demo or anything. It was like literally like, damn, can I hear more of your music?
Thank you. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you felt that way, because I recorded that in my bedroom and just sent it off. Like it was all done in lockdown. So it was about lockdown.
So cool.
Recorded it in lockdown. And I really didn't know what I was doing. Like I remember when I sent the stems to the engineer, he was telling me like they're clipping, like that, it's not recorded very well. But it just all came together, and because it was my first track, I was like, I want a music video, but I was so new to the industry. Like I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how you get a music video done. And then you hit me up. So if you guys want to watch that,
it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Introspect Kaiya, Kaiya.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if you do go on that. Just say, hey, came from UR Art.
Ah, true.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Full circle moment. Anyway, so that's how we met.
Yeah.
And just that day was really fun. Shooting was really fun.
Yeah, we shot that 2 weeks after we met.
2 weeks after we met, and just a whole day of shooting.
Yep.
Just the two of us, David's business partner, Kurt.
Shout out to Tim as well, who helped assist. BTS as well.
Yep.
And
Jamie, my friend from uni. So shout out. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea. I did drop out of uni. I did not finish my degree, but Jamie did. So shout out to Jamie.
I haven't graduated either.
Haven't you?
No.
What? I thought you did.
No.
Oh.
I did all my years, and then I just went like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, same.
Like, I know we're going on a slight tangent here, but like, I mean, maybe we can go in a bit more
Yeah.
in depth a bit later, but like just academic stuff for art, I think it's good and it definitely does help. But from my personal experience, it comes to a point where it's like, once you reach a point where you feel satisfied and you've gotten what you need,
Yeah.
you don't need the rest.
Totally.
That's how I felt, at least.
Totally. Yeah. Well, if I could go back in time, I would do music at uni. I'm still really bummed that that wasn't even a thought in my mind.
Same. I actually would have done music as like a unit or something.
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
a minor.
Yeah.
Because I did film, because I was so like, you have to just film. You know, you're going to be a filmmaker, director, whatever, film.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like 30, I'm like, fuck, kind of wish I did some other stuff. I
Yeah.
had the space and time for it. Shit.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
I think I was still going off the bandwagon of my family wanting to be a lawyer, a doctor, you know, or a dentist. And I was like, not right. Like, I was ready to drop out in year 10. Not because I wasn't doing well in school, but just because I was like, I'm not built for this. I
That's
don't fit into this 9 to whatever school was, I forgot. And the schedule and the homework, and it sounds so immature, but my creativity and my intelligence didn't feel completely nurtured in school.
Yeah, that's both primary and high school.
Like, I enjoyed primary because I had fun, but I was always itching for something more.
I feel you there. Like, you know, coming from a very traditional family background, the thing is, what's interesting is like, yes, obviously they wanted me to do like a high reputation, high paid job, like doctor, lawyer, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting and also, I mean, a bit kind of fucked was like, when they saw me being interested in something else, they're like, yeah, you can do that. But it would always be said in like a almost demeaning kind of way.
Like, as a hobby?
Like as a hobby, but also like if that's going to be a career, like, yeah, it's always about money.
Yeah, same.
Like, that's going to be a career. Like, you know, you got to be able to do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. It's not about like, do you love it?
Yeah.
Is this what you vibe with? Is this what you feel inclined to do? It's like, it's purely survival. Or reputation. Like, if you're going to have that job, make sure you earn a lot of money, or like make sure your reputation's great. Otherwise, like, it's not worth doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Are your parents immigrants?
Yeah.
Yeah,
immigrants.
same. I think it comes a lot from that because, I don't know about your family, but my family started from the bottom. You know, like, they were picking tomatoes in the farms just day in, day out. They were not going to school because they were working to get money. So I think that kind of pushes on to our generation, where it's like, we don't want you to go through what we went through, which is fair and beautiful.
It's understandable.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
But that really messed with my mind. And even when you know, I have my struggles as an artist. Like, I have a struggle with my choices, but that was going to happen either way. And I find that their voices come in when I'm struggling. Like, would it have been easier if I'd just been a lawyer? Would it have just been easier? Definitely freaking not, but...
Oh, my God, yeah.
Inner critic voice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, same thing. My parents sort of started at the bottom. Like, my mom's family, you know, they weren't really that well off. My dad's whole story is a freaking...
Yeah.
Could be a film on its own. Like,
Which may be one day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in a nutshell, I'm sorry, Dad, I don't know if you'll listen to this, but like, just to share his backstory real quickly. His dad was a gambling, sex addict, drug addict, kind of like crazy dude. 4 wives. My dad's the first son of the first wife. When he turned 11, he got kicked out of the house to fend for himself with his mum. Sorry, with my grandma. And then from there, he just worked his way up and eventually met my mum, and then, you know, they moved here and then had kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting from the bottom.
Start from the bottom. So it, like, again, like, it's not to push any blame or like hate onto the parents. It's like, we understand now, like, it's like, we know where they came from.
Totally.
So it makes sense as to why they'll like do this, because it's a survival mentality. They don't want us to, like you said, go through what they went through.
Totally.
But because we're in this different culture, different landscape, it's like we have the, I guess you could say, almost privilege or luxury to be able to enjoy what we do. We have the choice to do something we enjoy.
Yeah.
rather than having to like fend for ourselves every single day, every second of every day.
And it's thanks to them, and it's thanks to their efforts. Like, why should we, and this sounds so privileged, but why should we start from the bottom when you've built a foundation for us? Like, thank you for that. Let me now go from here. Exactly. And we're still going to have our struggles. We do with this. Like, it was never going to be, we didn't choose this road thinking like, I'm picking the fun path. We're just following our hearts. And I think that's really admirable for anything that anyone does, as long as you follow your heart.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned like picking the fun path, because like, you know, when you tell people like what you do, like I'm a musician, I'm a filmmaker, they're like, oh, that's so exciting and interesting. And you're like, I mean, first off, fuck yeah, it is. It's great. I love it. But then behind all that, you're just like, you have no fucking idea. I'm suffering every day. I can't sleep at night. I wake up, I'm like, what do I make for food? I don't have time to make food. What's my schedule? Who do I go to? I don't know. And then you're like, yeah, I love what I do.
I have a show coming up, so you should come down.
Watch, you're going to see my name like first thing in the credits, like directed by David Shin. It's like, and then underneath the captions like, I suffered and cried for this.
Well, that's the whole point of this podcast, right? It's like, we want to show that, like, because our lives are amazing and vibrant and we get to meet amazing people, but it's also kind of dark sometimes and hard.
Speaking of which, like, I think that's, we all have our way of, again, expressing ourselves and digging into ourselves to like bring out that art. So for you, what would you say is like your process in terms of making your art?
Whoa, that's a good question.
We're going there.
That's a great question. My process for making my art.
No matter what it is. Or, I mean, you can go into specifics as well.
The first obstacle is taming my imposter syndrome. With anything I do, that's the first hurdle I always have to cross. And I hope that changes. But she's always there. Like, I'll accept a gig and she's like, hey, girl. Remember, you're not a singer, you're a dancer. And I have to straight away tame that. And as soon as that's done, it's then going in and trying to be as selfless as I can possibly be. What art is required of me right now? What do I want to express without worrying about what other people are going to think, without thinking about the market and what will sell well? What is required of me as a soul, as a creative? And letting that come out, because it can be embarrassing, especially as a songwriter, when I'm in a session and like, just go on the mic, just freestyle, and I'm like, I've been depressed, I ain't been sleeping for weeks.
He's like,
like, all right, maybe
we might do another take. Sorry, I wasn't recording.
Seriously, like, that's but I find that my songs are the best when they're real. And even I had a session recently where I was just feeling real sexual, and it was a male producer. And I was just like singing all this stuff, and I was like, oh, like my ego, my selfishness came in for a second. I was like, oh God, like, stop singing about that. And so even that requires vulnerability. Every aspect of my music requires me to be vulnerable, and I need to be on my own side to be able to do that. I need to empower what I want to say.
Thanks for sharing.
Does that answer?
Yeah, hell yeah. Also, but like the whole sexual thing as well, like, thanks for putting that out there, because it's like, I think that's another side to self-expression that just, it's so taboo. And it's like frowned on, and like, you know, it gets skewed, and it's like, dude, if someone wants to just like put it out there and just be like, just put that energy out there and like express that, it's like, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Be happy and confident. It's a part of who you are.
Totally.
So.
And I want to shout out to the male producers who hold space for women, because you're just in an intimate space with
like
a guy.
In a booth and just like...
And it could go either way, because I have been in sessions where the producer misunderstands my lyrics towards them. And it's like, bro, I'm just here to do a job. Like, I'm just singing my song.
You're just breathing down their neck. I want you. It's like, what the fuck?
So I do appreciate the ones that just keep it professional. And And also just nurture my creativity. That goes for either way. If I'm singing a sad song, it's nice not to have to go too deep into it, or go deep into it if that's what I'm giving. But those producers that know how to read the room, know how to respect not only women, all human beings, just shout out. Appreciate you.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing. That was 100%. That was a good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Yeah, imposter syndrome, 100%. Same thing.
So you really get it as well?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. See, that shocks me.
So this is going to sound really mean, but the way I try to convince myself to just not have imposter syndrome is to go like, all right, fine, maybe I am incompetent, but the truth is, so is everyone else.
That's so good.
I know it sounds really mean, but like, just imagine everyone walking around doing their job, going like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey man, you don't know what the fuck you're doing too? Yeah, same here. And everyone's like, yeah, me too. Like, no matter where they are, whether they're like a beginner or like an expert or like how long they've been in the career, it's just like, everyone's walking around like, I'm fucking lost.
That's, if you ever wondered what it looks like when David and I work together.
We're both just like, that's so cool. I don't know what's going on.
That's good.
So that's the way I like to think about it. Because like, I saw this interview with Roger Deakins, who's like one of the most celebrated cinematographers in like the industry. And he straight up says like every time he goes to a film set, he's like, man, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And he's like one of the most celebrated people in the film industry. Oh, like he's got accolades on accolades, and like he's just incredible at what he does. But even him, at his reputation and status, or whatever you want to call it, walks around going like, I don't know what's going on half the time.
Yep. But
you just make it work.
I relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, the imposter syndrome kicks in, self-doubt, overthinking, and then I just sit back and I go, fuck it. Like, it's fine. You don't have to always know what you're doing. Just tap into yourself and find what you feel is genuine and authentic. And as cliche as it sounds and generic, your truth. And just put that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say that, and, you know, to some extent it's a bit hypocritical, but like I'll stop myself sometimes too. Because, you know, just we're all human beings, can't help it at times.
Totally.
But yeah, in terms of like how I get inspired or think of ideas and stuff like that, it all really comes down to personal experience, whether that's something I've watched, whether that's something I've lived through myself or heard from other people. Anything and everything can be an idea. And I spoke about before as well, I used to journal a lot of those things down in like notepads and notebooks, and I still have a bunch of them. Like, it's all random all over the fucking place, but I kind of love that chaos.
Yeah.
And then I don't know when those ideas will ever come to light, but it's good to just have them anyways. Because going back to your music video, the floating shot, I remember it was either in some like really old music video or like an old show, but there's a shot of this guy who's floating off his bed. And I was like, I would love to do that idea for something one day and try to twist it in my own way. And then lo and behold, like years and years later, I heard your song and I was like, that idea, without even like purposely going like, that's the idea, it just came to me.
Wow. Feeling
wise, I was like, I felt it. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, that's an idea I actually recorded. Let's make it happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think like it's to give myself permission to just do anything and everything. Yeah. And try to follow through with that.
Yes. Yeah. Follow through. Oh my gosh.
That's one of the hardest things to do as well.
Yeah. Which I think is where collaboration comes into play, because coming back to the podcast, this is something that originally I just envisioned that I was doing on my own. I was like, I'll set up the camera and I'll buy the microphone and I'll do this and that. And then when I thought of you, everything felt, and when we had a chat, so long story short, I set up to meet David to tell him about this podcast. And then as I was telling David, he was like, oh my God, I was going to tell you about this idea. And he had the exact same idea.
It was just funny because like you saw the look on my face as you were telling me. I was like, and you're like, what? It's not good? I'm like, no, this is exactly like what I was thinking as well. And you're like, oh shit. And I told you my idea. We're just like, well, fuck.
Yeah. So we just collaborated.
Yeah.
And that made it feel so much more tangible to me than it helped me to follow through, you know, because now we have each other to bounce off ideas. We have your skills, we have my skills, and it feels so much more, I don't know if this is a word, accomplishable. Is that a word?
We'll make that a word. Hey, English is flexible.
Follow through and collaboration is really important.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100%. Like, I think when it comes to collaborations, it's like this magical moment where two people who have something to create can merge that and create something even bigger.
Yeah.
Or it can just evolve into something else entirely.
Totally.
And I think that's why I just love working with other people, other artists, other creatives, just collaborating in general. It's, you have all these ideas and like you get so attached to them, which is fine. And sometimes when something's like so deeply connected to you, it makes sense to just put it out there for yourself and by yourself. But there are other times when like, when you share an experience and someone comes to it with like their own experience too, you're like, whoa, I've never thought of that. And then it just turns into this other thing because like, yeah, you know, I originally this was meant to just be like a show documenting artists and stuff. And then the idea of actually turning that into like a conversational episode as well through a podcast, it just made so much sense. It's like, whoa, that's just another way to explore it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just makes so much sense.
And to segue into that, we plan on doing kind of like a docu-series for UR Art, which, we don't know when yet, though that comes into the whole...
It will definitely happen there.
Yeah, it will definitely happen where we'll have a more kind of artistic and intimate experience with the artists.
Yeah, really digging into the human side of like the creation of art and all the stuff we talked about as well during this podcast. Yeah. So... Can we cut this out? I just wanted to check how long we have. Oh, okay. No, it's all good.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
I mean, I think that's a pretty good place to sort of cap it.
Yeah. Is there anything else I need to do?
I don't think so. I think we're pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait, let me just think. That's good.
Think thought.
So that's pretty much our first episode, just you guys getting to know us. From here on, you can kind of expect to have a different guest on every week or so, and we'll explore different aspects of the creative process with them. Yeah.
And who they are, who we are, everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to keep up with us on socials, my Instagram is at the Supreme Kaiya, so TheSupremekaiya. That's a long username.
ABC, EFG. I get it.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And on Spotify, you can find me as Kaiya.
Oh, what was that? That's all good. Anyways.
Yeah, so on Spotify as well, you can find me. Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
At Spotify, you can find her.
And on Spotify, you can find me as Kaiya, Kaiya.
Awesome. And yeah, you can find me for my personal account on IG. You can find me at Dimenshin. So the SION for Dimension at the end is Shin instead. So SHIN. Jeez, can't spell today. And if you want to see more of my work in general, Mind Society Studios. So Mind Society Studios, MIND Society Studios.
So we'll see you guys next week for another episode. And till then,
thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
You are art.
You are art.